Okay, guys, I'm very excited to have Desiree on the call with us and the new agency owner of Paradigm Financial Group, which is really exciting. And everything she has accomplished from when she got here, the improvements that she's made, her progression as an agent, as a leader, as an agency owner, as an agency builder. She is probably, top 5 most successful people to ever come out of our agency, as well as even on agencies bigger than ours, which is a huge deal. So we're really excited to learn from her. But what I want you guys to understand is that if you're just sitting on this call hanging out and you have no intention of actually taking what she's going to teach you and writing it down and taking notes and really being locked in and then trying to implement it, this isn't doing anything for you. So I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds to get out your notepads. If it's your note on your phone, if it's this, you're going to scribble on your hand, I don't care. But a lot of times people do the thing where they're like professional meeting goers, right? It's like they go to every single meeting, but then it's like, oh, I didn't implement anything Desiree said. And we don't have the opportunity to learn from her every single day. Well, you actually do, because you should get on Zoom and hear her sell. But if you're someone who doesn't get on Zoom and you don't have the opportunity to learn from her every single day, you cannot be on here. This girl has made $60,000 in 3 weeks. Okay, I don't know about you guys and if you all came from like rich families, but I never made $60,000 in a year before I started FFL. So to make $60,000 and to issue pay $60,000 in 3 weeks, because we don't even have the full month, and to not take that opportunity that we have for free on this Zoom call and really dive into it and try to implement what she's doing so that you can get better, I think would be crazy, right? And everyone can do exactly what she's doing. So get your notepads out. She's going to teach us a lot tonight, and I'm really excited. So Des, thank you so much for being willing to do this with us.
No, thank you, Marissa. And guys, calls like these matter so much because when I was a new agent and I thought I sucked and I thought I didn't belong here and I thought I didn't have the skills, it was calls like these that gave me that sliver of hope to keep pushing forward, to develop the skill, to separate myself from people who are on the call hosted. I used to be like, man, I can't do what Marissa's doing. That's crazy. And then that limited my own belief. But when you hop on these calls, you're like, dude, Desiree's not that special. She just works hard. That's it. So these calls matter so much. So thank you for hosting and thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course, Des. So for anybody who hasn't heard your story or been with us long, right? New agents, talk about, what you were doing before this, how you got introduced to FFL, what your original kind of mindset was about it, and then like the progression to kind of where you're at now and what your experience has been.
All right. So prior to this, I was in real estate. I still have my real estate license. I don't practice it as much. I developed the skill like before then, but I was in commission-based sales. And real estate is a market that is dependent on, obviously, the market. It goes up and down. And you could ask your realtor that, you could ask your loan officers that. There's something that it's like dependent on. And so there was one year I was decent. I wasn't that great. I sold like 5 homes in 1 month, and the rest of the year I didn't make any money. And I was like, this is not sustainable. This is not good at all. How am I going to get out of my parents' house? Like, I need something that, and I didn't want to go back to a normal job. I didn't want a boss. I didn't want someone telling me when I could take days off. I didn't want time away from the holidays. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And lo and behold, I saw a social media post. Social media is so important, guys. Like, this is crazy. Diego literally, all he did was repost something that someone already created. And I was at a low moment in my life. And I was like, all I did was slide up and I said, what's this? That's it. He didn't do anything but repost something. And that small post led him to a conversation with me. And like, here I am. So it really started from like being in a market that's dependent on something else and then transferring over into life insurance. And life insurance is a recession-proof market, guys. It's recession-proof. Like, you will always make money here. You have a license to print money because people need our services. And that's kind of how I got here. It was like I said, social media is super powerful.
So Des, real quick, I remember when you first started, you were still more real estate and less life insurance. I remember you still were very much, and here's the thing, let's face it, right? Real estate sounds a lot sexier than life insurance, right? When people hear real estate, they think of, what's that show? Selling
Sunset on Netflix,
Selling Beverly
crazy.
Hills, or whatever the heck those things are. They have all these like reality shows where real estate is this like, just this like sexy, awesome career of like, and so many people I talked to on a daily basis, oh, I'm getting my real estate license, I'm getting my real estate license. And you were, I think, still very tied up a little bit in like I'm going to do real estate, but I'll do insurance part-time, but like real estate. What finally, and I know you talked about it, like not being sustainable, but what finally made you realize, like, I don't want to say it's overrated because it's obviously, real estate's always going to be around, but what made you realize like, okay, life insurance maybe isn't as sexy, but this is like where I'm going to focus my time?
Right. It was, I mean, there was a couple things. One from like a production standpoint with real estate is, guys, if the moment someone gets a mutual contract, like if Marissa listed her house, someone went and like offered on it and they became like they got into a mutual contract. It takes 30 to 45 days for the home to close and for you to get paid. So that's already a long period of time. The second thing is that there's so many hands in the pot of the transaction. You have me as the real estate agent, the other real estate agent, the buyer, the seller, the lender, the escrow officer. I've had so many deals fall through because someone messed up. And I was like, okay, well, that's also not, that's a very fragile state of a transaction. And that was the first thing. I was like, okay, it takes 30 to 45 days for a home to close after you find like an actual client. The second thing was that it was recession, or it wasn't recession proof. I would say the third thing was, if I built, like, I would have to sell so many homes to like retire. There was no like, I guess, exit strategy for me. Here, you're able to like bring people to this opportunity and show them what they can do, and then also build an agency and help them to the same caliber that, I mean, you can't really do that anywhere else. So that was the second thing, is helping other agents into the life insurance industry. You can't really do that in real estate. You would have to like build a team and take people's commissions, and I didn't really like that.
Yeah, I love that. And our sales cycle is quick.
Quick, yeah.
Sales cycles, like you can make a sale today and be paid like in 48 hours, which a lot of sales cycles don't have that, right? When you look at solar, when you look at pest control, when you look at, even retailer products, right? Like even some people do multi-level marketing products, like it takes a while. The product has to be received and it has to be reviewed and things like that. This is quick, right? So I think that's always a big driving factor. So Des, you started out and you were doing, I believe you started on final expense, and now
Mhm.
you kind of like, now you're doing mortgage, IUL, annuity. You're really a very well-rounded agent. Can you talk
Mhm.
about like the progression? Like how did that go? When did you know you should start, implementing new things and new lead types?
Yeah, I was final expense. And again, guys, I was like part-time my first 2 years. I was so like halfway in the industry. It was so bad. And now I tell people, and I'm gonna segue on this too, Marissa, is like when I hire people, I say, hey guys, once you get your life license, like you are a business owner. Even if you're a part-time business owner, you're a business owner. So I try to like have them shift their whole mindset that you are now operating a business. I didn't treat it like that when I started. I was just like, hey, I'm gonna do this thing. If I don't sell a house, I'm gonna do this thing. And I was just so halfway in, halfway out. But to answer your question, is I started with final expense. I was doing in-home. I really enjoyed it. I liked meeting people face to face. I liked sitting with them at the table. I got to meet people where they were at. And sometimes you really sit with people who are like on a low income. And so I really got to like have my eyes open to like, wow, people really need our help, like all types of people. I felt like I did a decent job with final expense. And I was like, hey, I have this life license. Like I want to branch into a bunch of other things. And I mean, with final expense, if you're doing in-home, you could have so many like no-shows and different things that I was like, hey, if I like get into telesales, I could really bend the time zones. I'm on the Pacific Standard Time. If I call the East Coast, I could start earlier and earlier, whatever I wanted to do. I could really elaborate that all the time zones. And then also I just wanted to get good at like, hey, I want to understand mortgage protection. I didn't really. And then had a lot of help from everyone on Zoom. Shout out to Nicole. She helped me a lot. But yeah, so, and then I just wanted to utilize all aspects of my license. And so that's kind of how I hopped in from like final expense to mortgage, and now getting into annuities and IULs. I felt like I wasn't very well versed, but why I love Family First Life is they offer so many freaking trainings. Like just the builder's call and the SRS call, that's how I probably got this 60K month. Like I just relentlessly, I blocked it out on my calendar. I would attend every single SRS call. And that's how I got like really good at asking the golden question. I was familiar with the verbiage they were using. It's not that I'm like, I would just hop on the call and I was present. That's it. I didn't spend any extra other study time outside of that. I would just hop on the call, take notes, and then revisit my notes and reflect on it. And then I would use it on a call with a mortgage protection client. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I love that. And one thing too about Des, and guys, this is where Des is way better than me. And that's the goal, right? Is to cultivate people that are better than you. So I'm very excited for her. Des is so self-disciplined and self-motivated and self-driven, right? So there's people that are like just askers, right? And they're always like asking questions, which is great to ask questions. And then there's people who ask the questions, but they go find the answers. Right. So Des never once texted me, hey, how do I run an illustration for an IUL? She went to the training and figured out how to run the illustration for the IUL. Like I asked Des honestly more questions at this point. Like I'll text her about products at this point, even though I've been here longer, because she's such a finder outer. right? And that's being very self-driven as a business owner. And because we have so many different products and so many, like, you have to leave your knowledge and what you need to know about the business is up to you. It's not up to Des. It's not up to me. It's not my job, right? Like, I brought you into the business. I show you where the resources are at. My job only goes so far, but I can't possibly know all the answers, right? So a lot of you guys and a lot of me, and I've done this before too, is like, you're just like, you're like this with your hands out, right? Like, you're just waiting for people to put the answers in your hand. Whereas Des just goes and finds them. She'll call the carrier. She'll be like, I'll call her and she'll be like, I'm on the phone with F and G, right? Instead of texting me and be like, hey, how do I do the app? Like, what do I do? What should I do? She's calling F and G to figure out if they can do a risk analysis, right? She's going to find the thing. She's finding the client brochure. She's finding the quote tool. Like, she's like, here's the new link, right? Like, she's a finder outer. She's not sitting here with her hands open like, hey, can you give me the answers? Like, I'm ready for answers. She's going to get them, to the point where I'm texting Des like, yo, where's the answers, dude? So I can tell the rest of the team and pretend like I found it. No, I'm just kidding. But that's the point, right? And that's why she has these big months, is because she takes it upon herself to go find the answer, as opposed to waiting for somebody to do it for her, right? She doesn't wait for somebody else to get on Zoom. She doesn't wait for me to say, hey, Des, we should get on Zoom. She's on there closing. Go find the answers. Go call the carriers. Go run an illustration. Go practice and mess up a little bit. You don't always need somebody holding your hand. And I think that's super important to why, Des, you've seen a lot of success as well, because you'll just go figure it out.
Yeah. And that's another thing too. If I'm recruiting someone or if I'm interviewing someone, I like check to see if they're resourceful. Hey, if something happens, how do you handle it? Like, are you going to go find out the problem? Like, what are we doing? But I love when someone's resourceful and if they're like a critical thinker, problem solver, because that's all we do in this business. Earlier, I had an agent on the phone. She was on the phone with a 75-year-old, and I'm like, you literally just have to walk her through how to sign the Transamerica e-app. Like, that's it, because Aetna's down at this point. But anyways, I'm like, just walk her through. All we do 90% of this business is just problem solving. That's it.
Yeah. Des, talk to us about your lead flow. What leads do you run? How much do you spend? How often do you buy leads?
Yeah. I would say, so right now I do primarily aged mortgage. It could be ARIA. It could be mortgage protection through the ILC. I'm doing anywhere from like 1,000 to 1,500 to 2,000. It depends on like what I'm doing or like what my schedule looks like, if I'm like doing training calls or whatever else. But yeah, anywhere minimum 1,000. But what like lead flow is cash flow. So if I'm doing 2,000, I'm going to put up way bigger numbers. I'm not confused with like my input to my output. Right. And so again, it's like all the three things we really look at is like, do you have enough leads? Are you doing enough activity? And then are you like training? Those are the three things. Like, that's all I do. Enough leads, enough activity, and enough training. And if I fall short on any of the other three, I could see what of the three is missing.
Des, I can't remember. You didn't have to buy leads in real estate. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, it was horrible. I had to be, I really didn't like, another thing with real estate is like, you have to like develop this long-term relationship. And I would talk to like my gym friends or even my like family, and I'd be like, hey, don't forget I'm a real estate agent. I just hated it. I hated that so much, because then I would have friends use a different real estate agent, and then I would just like not like them anymore. And I didn't want my relationships built on like, hey guys, like, don't forget I do this thing over here. That's why I love leads. I love it. I don't need you. I don't need you. I could just get a stack of leads and just call them up.
Yeah, I love that. But a lot of people on this call, Des, we have 80 people on the call. They're not buying leads for a lot of reasons. One could be they're nervous, right? They're scared to buy leads. Maybe they think they don't have the money, which I think you always can find the money. I had zero money when I came in and I figured out how to get leads somehow, right? A lot of times you have to sacrifice something, right? You have money for a concert ticket, but you don't have money for, whatever. You have money for 4th of July, week or month, however long you guys take to celebrate 4th of July, but you don't have money for leads. So that being said, your perspective, if someone on the call is not buying enough leads or they're not buying leads at all because they're nervous about it, how do they get over that uncomfortability and like why it's so important?
Yeah, I always tell them, like, going back to the business owner, I'll be like, Marissa, do you know anyone that owns a business? Yeah, I do. My uncle owns a gym. Okay, so before your uncle opened up the gym, he had to go lease the building, buy the equipment, get the licenses, get the staff. He had to invest a crap ton of money before he even saw profit. And gyms aren't even that profitable, honestly. But like, he had to spend all this money up front and like get a business loan. Here, the barrier of entry is so low. All you need to do is invest $1,000, and that week sell 1 to 2 to 3 policies to just 3x what you invested. So we are a business first. In order for us to have I say our sales process is this, like we make money when we sell a policy. So our inventory, our leads, we have to make sure our shelves are stocked. And I give them this analogy, like if you go to a grocery store isn't going to make money until they stock their shelves. Like you go to Safeway, you have to make sure everything's stocked. So, and that's the concept I tell them. And so I'll ask them, hey, how much do you have like to invest in leads? If you're part-time, I say anywhere from $500 to $800. If you're full-time, anywhere from $800 to $1,000. And so I'll ask them where they are in that gauge. So they know the moment they get licensed that they're going to dump money into this business to get a return out. So I'll give them the analogy that you're a business owner. This is how much, if you're part-time or full-time, what you should invest. And then we kind of go from there. And if they have like no money at all, I won't hire them for the most part, or I'll ask them, like I'll say, hey, Drake, right now, how many people in your immediate family, friends, they don't have any insurance or they're undereducated with insurance? Like, can you think of 5 to 10 people? This is the only way that I'm going to hire you. Yeah. I can think of 8 people. Perfect. The moment you get your license, you're going to go talk to them immediately, educate them. Once you sell a policy, that's going to be your money to jumpstart your business. And I always say the word business, business, business. So if someone's really like, they have all the qualities, they're a positive person, a hard work ethic, like Desiree, I just don't have any capital, then I'm like, okay, I'll work with you. But if they're like negative and they don't have money to invest in leads and they think it's stupid, I'm not hiring them at all. So it's always the concept of you're a business owner, what's your inventory? Because we have to spend money to make money here.
Yeah. So Des, you hire me, I'm brand new agent. You say, get leads. I get leads. Okay. I do my thing. I get on the phone first dial day. I call 100 leads. I don't sell any policies. And then I call you and I say, hey, Des, these leads suck. Nobody answered me. No one bought a policy from me. You lied to me. These leads don't work. What's the mind? What's your coaching? What are you going to do?
Wow. So prior to that, I set up like a lot of expectations. So we have something where we like measure our metrics. And first off, if I'm working with you, you have to be on Zoom. Your camera has to be on. You have to unmute. And like, I'll say, hey, I have a crazy schedule. I'm training all these other agents. Like you need to follow these guidelines or I won't give you time because I'm going to match your effort. So I like to be very clear with expectations is that you're on Zoom, you're going to unmute, right? And then we go over your schedule. And then also I'm very like adamant about how are you tracking your activity? So we have something called like KPI trackers, which are key performance indicators. And again, guys, the moment someone gets hired, you're telling them you're a business owners. What do businesses do? They track their KPIs. So what are the KPIs, right? Every day every week, you're going to have to spend money on leads. You're going to have X amount of leads. And then you have to do 300 dials, 4 to 6 presentations, or 2 to 3 closes. If you hit one of those 3 metrics, you like work successfully in that day. But prior to that, I'm going to say, cool, Marissa. So when did you come in? How many dials did you do? You're going to be like, I only did 50 dials. Okay, well, that's why you're not selling anything. You only did 50 dials. If the metric is 300, you did a fraction of that. You're not going to talk to enough people. So I think it's very important to set up those expectations of what it really looks like to close a policy. It's not going to be you buying 10 leads because that's never going to work. Yeah. And so it's just the expectation.
I love that. I think that's huge, right? And I used to have a lot of people do that, right? It's like, the leads don't suck. What sucks is your ability to overcome objections from the leads. That's what sucks. You haven't built up the skill level yet, and that's okay. You'll get there, right? What sucks is the amount of dials you made. You didn't make enough. What sucks is the amount of leads you bought. You didn't buy enough leads, right? What sucks is that you got nervous and you were uncomfortable on the phone, so you actually hung up on some of the, like, what sucks is not the leads. What sucks is your ability to close the leads, and you'll get better at that. Right. When you blame yourself and you have the accountability of like, the leads don't suck. I suck at overcoming the objections. I suck because that lady told me she had insurance and I said, okay, have a nice day. You suck, right? The leads don't suck. So I think that's super important too. All right. So we got that. Now, Des, this is something you're also really good at. How old are you?
29.
Okay. 29. You started the business, what, when you're 27, 26?
I think I was 26. Yes.
Okay, 26. A lot of people in their 20s do not like to make the personal sacrifices that they need to make. So talk about your schedule, right? You're not somebody you're not going out on the weekends and going partying and going to bottle service and going to the clubs and going to vacation every 3 days and doing all this crazy stuff. Talk about your schedule and how many hours you're actually putting at the office, how many hours you're actually on Zoom, and what sacrifices you've had to make that successful.
Gosh, that's so important. I think like in the beginning, I didn't even have a schedule. I just like was like, well, I have these leads, let's dial. I think if you're brand new and you sit with your mentor, your manager, or whatever, it's the same concept of like when you leave a W-2 job, you have a schedule. So I think helping them frame their schedule and then also getting the discipline to fill in those schedules is really important. But for me, I was terrible in the beginning. I think I would like wake up and like dial and then go to the gym in the middle of the day, and it just didn't really like suit my goals. So it just took a lot of like effort. I knew that my result wasn't what I was wanting. Like I think in the beginning I was like issuing 10 families, and I was like, man, I could do more than that. And then so I just knew the goals and dreams I had for myself were much bigger than what I was doing. And I just reverse engineered that backwards. And I was like, okay, cool. I have to like work more. I have to study more. And for me, I think that was it. I don't know if that's like a good answer, but I was so frustrated with where I was at, and I knew I had to change something. So I became like more disciplined. I would like go to the gym in the morning instead of, I don't like going to the gym at 6 a.m. I hate going to the gym at 6 a.m. If it were up to me, I would like to go at 10 a.m. But I was like, no, I have meetings, I have clients to meet. So I knew I had to sacrifice certain things to get where I needed to go, just because agents need me, clients need me. And so at the end of the day, it was really just, how am I going to best help people? And that's just being more available for the business, more available for clients, calling leads, converting them into clients, educating people. And so I just kind of like shifted that frame backwards of like, okay, well, I have to sacrifice what I want to do to get to where I want to go. And it took me a little bit to get there, but all you guys have to do is look at, where do you really want to go? Because it is going to take sacrificial like work, time, and effort. And you could talk to a manager about that too. Hey, I want to get to your level. What do you do? This is literally exactly what I do. And then like following that framework if you're completely lost, because I was completely lost the first like year and a half. It felt like that. Mm-hmm.
Des, give us something that you say to your clients that you think is like a closing line, or something that you think helps you close your clients.
Okay. So like, I think cementing the sale is super important. Or even prior to that too, if people are like, man, I don't really know if I could fit it into my budget or blah, blah, blah. And they're spending like X amount of money on cigarettes, or they're going out all the time, or they tell me, hey, I could save $500, but then I show them $100 premium. They're like, I don't know if I could really do that. I'll say, hey, John, look, life insurance is the most important bill you could have, because it's the only bill that could pay all your other bills when you pass away. Your phone bill can't do that. Your freaking car insurance can't do that. Nothing could do that. So this is the only thing that's going to be able to leave extra money, a lump sum of money, to Mary and your children. So most of the clients I talk to, they're able to actually prioritize this into their budget. So I tell them that. I'm saying, hey, this is the most important bill. And then I say, hey, most of my clients they don't have an issue prioritizing this because they know how important it is. So I'll use that. And then at the end, I think it is important to cement the sale. So saying stuff like, hey, I'm going to be your agent for life. If they're an older couple, I'll say, hey, guess what? Not only do you get this protection if you are approved, but you adopt me into your family, and they like laugh about it. Another thing too, if they're older, and of course I'm doing telesales and they have an iPhone, I'll try to like FaceTime them right then and there. That seals the deal. So like there's all these different tips, but I do think looking at a client as not just a transaction, but turning them from a lead to a lifelong client is so important, because it doesn't matter how much you make, it's how much you keep. Like, how long are those clients gonna, like, I still have clients call me to this day saying, hey, how are you? Or they'll FaceTime me, and just those are the clients that like really matter. And then in the beginning, it's always the clients that are like the hardest ones to convert into a client. Like just the other day, I think some people witnessed this on Zoom. This guy was like yelling at me, and I didn't even give a crap. I was like, John, can you stop yelling? Like, I can't even hear you. I can't even get a word out. And I honestly thought like he was gonna hang up. And he ended up being a sale. And then I said, hey, happy 4th, you're approved. He's like, hey, you have a blessed day. Happy 4th. And it's just crazy to see that transition if you just challenge your clients and you ask the right questions. But yeah, hopefully I answered that question for you.
Yeah, that's huge. Life insurance is the most important bill you can have, because it's the only bill that can pay the rest of your bills when you die.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, did you make that up, or did you copy that from somewhere?
That was a training. Like all the things I regurgitate, they're all just like other trainings or podcasts that I've listened to, and I've written it down. So I can't even trademark that. I've heard it somewhere.
That was phenomenal. I like that a lot. Okay, so real quick before we transition into a little bit of building stuff, you have a mortgage protection training as well as a couple other trainings. Where do people find those?
It's on YouTube. If someone wants to drop it in, Prime Group has a YouTube. So if you want to drop that in the chat, somebody, Anyone could use it, and it goes like with my script. So like I have a script, and I used to like spend hours going over the script with people, and I was like, we need to just make a video. Like I can't like I'm not even producing because I'm like explaining the script. So now the script should break down every single part of like the video playlist should break down the script.
So people on this call can go watch your
Yeah.
specific thing and what you do and then implement that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm all for like free training. I love because when I was at my lowest point, I would just YouTube the heck. FFL mortgage protection, FFL final expense, FFL equity protection. I will give back to like anyone. If it helps anyone, I don't care. Like put it out there.
Okay, I love that. So someone can drop the link for that if you guys have the Prime group. If not, we can drop it in Slack after. Oh, Larry's got it. Perfect. Thanks, Larry. All right. Now, Des, you've decided to grow an agency, which not everybody does, right? Some people want to, some people don't. Talk to us. And here's the thing about growing an agency. Sometimes people are like, dude, I'm selling 60 grand a month. You made, 60 grand. Even let's just say this was a big month and you do average of 40 grand a month. Some people are like, dude, 40 grand a month. Why on earth would I need to build a team when I could do this just every month? Like, I'm good. So talk to us about, why you want to build an agency, why you think that's important, and then kind of what has that process been for you? How are you getting agents started? Where are you finding them, and the kind of that whole thing?
Yeah. I don't want to sell insurance the rest of my life. And so that was like the first, I was like, oh, I really don't want to sell insurance the rest of my life. And it looks like you have to like hire people and then like train them to do the same thing. And then like you'll get residual income doing that. And so that's kind of what piqued my interest in the beginning. And then it just turned into like wanting to help people. Like seeing people like hate their jobs, or someone's a barista and they're like, I don't want to go back to school, or they're in debt. And I'm like, hey, I do this insurance thing. And like, and inviting people that way, or just educating them, really helps. And then seeing them like kind of transform from like not believing in themselves to like starting to believe in themselves, and seeing that process is really, I think, super, super important for me. I also like people to understand, like, the moment you get your insurance license, there's two ways to make money, right? You could personally produce, and in my eyes, you could really personally produce and get six figures fast. Like you get rich fast. You could sell a policy, make a lot of money. And then in the end result, like if you start to hire people, the second way to make money is to like by recruiting and building an agency. That's where like the real wealth is, just from what I've seen, what I've heard, getting override income. So I tell people, hey, if I'm talking to like a new agent, I'll say, hey, you could get rich really fast, make six figures really fast here. Or you could get really wealthy and you could potentially make six figures in a month. You pick where you want to go. And I'll ask like a new agent this, I'll say, hey, do you want to be a producer only, a builder only, or do you want to do both? And so like whatever they pick, and I'll say, I'm going to challenge you to your goals. Like this is what builders do. This is what like, so you want to get good at producing, because if you hire someone and you lack the skill to teach them how to produce, how are you valuable to them? So that's how I look at it. Like people are like, oh, why do you produce at a high level? I'm like, I don't know. I just keep going because I want to make sure that if my agent has a question, I can answer it. Like it's not that deep for me. I'm like, and also I just want to keep transforming and being the best version that I am. I don't really think I don't ever want to live a mediocre life. So I always want to strive to do better and better every single day. And if that means like producing at a high level and that's a byproduct, that's fine. But at the end of the day, like my intention is just to help new agents. So I do think that's important, is just asking them, hey, are you a producer, builder, or are you both? And kind of going from there. But there are two ways to make money in this business. Like I said, get rich just by producing, or get really wealthy by building an agency, and also opening up opportunity for other people to do the same thing. Like that's so powerful.
Yeah, and I think that portion right there, Des, is super important, because in a lot of other business models, you can hire people to do nothing, right? Like, so you got to think about, guys, like in MLM models or multi-level marketing, right? It's hire a lot of people to not make a lot of money, right? So the guy at the top can make a lot of money, and then the other people can be doing nothing. What's super cool about the recruiting aspect of our business or building an agency is like, okay, if Desiree has 5 agents and those agents aren't selling, Des isn't making money, because neither are those agents making money. Does that make sense? So that's what I love so much about our model versus other models, is people will ask me, hey, Marissa, do you get paid to recruit? And I'm like, no, I can recruit 10,000 people. But if those 10,000 people don't make any money for their families, I don't make any money from those people. Right. So the only way for this to work, it's like a give and take relationship, which is really cool, because it does have a lot more impact, and you do have to actually help people make money. Right? It's very different than like a lot of other standard business models where it's like, hey, I could get a bunch of people to do nothing and then I'll make money even though they won't be happy. if Cece and Micaiah and Angelina and those people aren't selling policies, they're not making money for their family, which means Des is not making money on her agency, which I think is super, super important for you guys to understand about the recruiting here, is that if your people are not successful, you are not successful. You do not get paid a dime to recruit people to do nothing. That's why also we're really unemotional if you quit. Like, right. And I know that's kind of harsh, but like if I hire an agent and they don't do anything, I'm like, dude, the only person you really hurt is you, because I didn't expect to make anything from you anyway. I was expecting you to make something from you. Like I wanted you to do well for your family. And if you don't, like, love you, but I'm still sleeping the same, right? Like I'm
Right.
still sleeping at, like, I love you. I want you to do well, but I don't make anything for you doing nothing, just like you don't make anything. So the only way for you to make money, or the only way for me to make money, is for you to make money. So it's a
Right.
very give and take relationship, which I think is super important, is that you do have to have an impact on people and you have to help them before it makes a difference for you.
Right.
Which I think is super cool. So Des, talk about what's your interview process? What are you looking for? Who are you not working with versus who are you working with?
Wow, yeah. I mean the moment, because right now we have a situation where they're prompted to watch an agency call that, or an overview meeting, which is, or not meeting, it's an overview video that's 10 minutes long. It's so short. And in the instruction, it says, watch this video before you schedule. That is like the first test. So I will call someone, I'll say, hey, Marissa, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. And I'll say, hey, did you watch that video completely? And I could tell when I'm on the phone with somebody. And it'll be like, yeah. And I'll say, cool, what was your favorite part? And they're like stumbling, they can't find a favorite part. One person legit just like last week said, I liked like that it was about insurance. And I was like, this fool did not even watch the freaking video. And so like that, if they can't watch the video, I'm not hiring them. Right. And then I might ask them, why do you want to leave where you work? And I'll listen to what, like if they complain, if they blame other people. So I'm always looking for self-accountability. And then at the end of the day, I just give them three things. I'll say, hey, Marissa, this, I don't care if you have a business degree. I don't care if you worked at another commission-based sales job. I don't care. The only thing I care about are three things. You have a hard work ethic, you're coachable, and you have a positive attitude. If you have those three things, I know I could help you find success here. And so that's like the foundation of my interview. But in the beginning, I'm getting off the phone in a matter of like 2 minutes if you didn't watch the video, and also if you start complaining. And I'll just say, hey, this is not going to be a good fit. You could, let me know if you have any questions, but we're not looking for somebody like you. I'm like just super straightforward. And then I move on to the next person. So I give them an instruction. I ask them a question to see like how they describe something. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think that's huge too, because it's also like, even for people on this call, like, are you an agent that somebody would want to work with? Are you behaving in a way that, like, are you, and I don't want to say worth, but like, are you behaving in a way that deserves mentorship, right? A lot of people just assume like I'm entitled to be mentored. I'm entitled for this person, Des, who's done really well, who's making 60 grand in 3 weeks. I'm entitled to her attention. I'm entitled for her to help me. And it's like, are you acting as an agent who a mentor would want to help? Right? Are you
Right.
showing up with a good attitude? Are you accountable for your actions? Are you blaming other people for why your life's not going good? Are you going out of your way to be a problem, solver instead of a problem finder, right? A problem creator. So I think that's super important. And right, a lot of people are just like, oh, because Desiree is hiring for an agency, it's her responsibility. It's like, no, it's your responsibility to be an agent that is worth mentoring, that is behaving in a way that a mentor would want to help you. And I think that's super important.
Right.
So
And
Des,
sorry,
go ahead.
I'll say one more thing too. Another thing too, if I'm like getting into the interview, I'll ask them, I'll say, Marissa, sales is not for everybody. Sales is a pretty hard job just because people deal with rejection a lot. And I might ask them, what's your relationship with rejection, and see how they respond. And if they can't articulate it, I'm like, we'll see, maybe. But I'll just say, hey, you're going to get a lot more no's than yeses, but the yeses here are worth a lot. But I truly, truly believe that the way that you handle rejection, like how you respond to rejection, will define your success. Because if you're someone who crawls and cries and like leaves and like doesn't come back for another week, like I don't want to work with you. It's we get back up, we get rolling, you're going to get a lot more no's, and you just move on to the next person. So I'll say, Marissa, if someone hangs up on you 50 times in a row and tells you to F off and like go kill yourself, go off yourself, are you going to like call the next person, or are you going to leave? Like, is that going to frustrate you? And then I'll wait to see how people respond. And a lot of it is, I used to like talk at people and say, hey, we have the best comp, we have this, we have that. And I'm like, it's more of a question. And like, I'm very receptive. I'm like, okay, how do they respond? And that's pretty much all it is in the interview process. But the same thing with your agents too. You could ask, hey, instead of saying, why were you late? It's like, hey, what happened? What caused you to be late? Like, is there something that I can help you with? Or I just don't talk to them. Like, honestly, sometimes if someone shows up late, I just don't talk to them, because I match people where they're at. I match their effort, and that's totally okay.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Des, you've been phenomenal. I'm going to ask you one more question. So you're 3-ish years in now, 2 years in, 2.5 something. Um, for these guys that are just getting started or they're, just ramping up or they're going to have their base month, what is something that you've learned that you're doing now that you wish you had done sooner or something that you wish you had implemented sooner so that they can do it now and take less time to get where you're at?
Yes, I would say developing your mindset should be the number one thing. Mindset is so important because again, it's like how you look at something. And constantly for me, I was watching podcasts, training videos, because like neuroscience states 60, you have 60,000 thoughts a day. 60,000. 95% of those thoughts are the same as the day before. And 80% of those thoughts are negative. Like as human beings, we're wired to have negative thinking. So if I'm in my head by myself, or I'm starting this new endeavor and I'm like saying, I can't do it, I'm not worth it, all these self-limiting beliefs, like you're not going to succeed if you're just constantly in your own head. So for me, I'm like listening to podcasts. I'm listening to people who uplift me. I do not like anyone in my circle that's negative. I don't. I like don't talk to you. I don't even care if we're family. Like I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna distance myself from you. And then I like just listen to a podcast, someone that's like empowering, uplifting, and it's just things to help me like level up or also to just be a beacon of hope to other people. So for me, I think developing mindset. So when I was new, I was listening to podcasts like driving. I remember it like my first like couple months in, I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I was probably crying because I had like 3 no-shows and I didn't really know what to expect. And I'm like listening to this podcast and it was an FFL podcast that like brought me hope. And I went the next day and I sold all the policies. So like that's just an example. But if I didn't listen to that podcast, I wouldn't be here today, like to be honest. But I was seeking positive like mindset like practices, and then I would also implement it. So for me, I think if you're a new agent and you think that you can't do this or whatever the case may be, like go watch things that uplift you and help you like elevate yourself. That was like the number one thing that I did, and I still do that to this day. Like I could tell if I don't listen to like some kind of positive podcast, I'm off. I'm a little bit off. Like I could see it.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's huge too. And also, I think, Des, like you're so coachable. Like you're putting yourself in a position to have constructive criticism, right? So, like, example, you guys, a lot of people get offended by constructive criticism. Des is looking for ways for it to make it better. Like she calls me the other day and she's like, "Hey, I know you'll be honest with me." She's like, "I know you'll be transparent with me. Am I out of line? Like, is this wrong?" And I'm like, "Des, straight up, you're out of line. Like, get over it, go back to work, like, stop, like, knock it off." And the thing is, like, I know I can say that to her because she called and asked me for it. Right? Like she called me and she's like, "I need your honest opinion. Will you be honest?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Most people won't do that, right? They're offended. They don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear, like, I'll be like, "Des, you didn't make enough dials. Like, stop, like, get over yourself. Go back to the phones and like, stop calling me and whining." Right? So the reality is like, Des is putting herself in a position because she wants to get better versus a lot of people are like, "I can't believe she said that. I would never ask her that. I can't believe like, she offended me. She hurt my feelings. She's too blunt. She's too this." And Des is like, "I'm going to call her. I know I might not hear what I want to hear, but I know afterwards it's going to make me better." And Des, that takes a lot of maturity and a lot of leadership and a lot of self-awareness to be able to do that. Right? To be like, "I'm going to call this person. I know they're probably not going to say what I want to hear, but what they're going to say is going to make me a better person." I've had people literally quit our team, and you've had people quit your team because they're like, "Well, she was too straight up." Right? And it's like,
Right.
we want you to hit your goals, right? Des wants to hit her goals. So she's putting herself in a position to be sometimes criticized and sometimes coached. And I have to do the same thing, right? I'll call and be like, "Des, what do you think?" Like, or "Diego, do you think this was wrong? Like, what do you think?" And they'll be like, "Yeah, that was rude. Like you were out of line. You got to do this next time. We felt this, whatever it is." And those conversations are really important. And that self-awareness that you have is really important.
Right, it is. And like being sincerely transparent. That's what I tell people if I hire you. Hey, I'm a very transparent person, but it's like it's coming from sincerity. Because if I tell you anything, Marissa, like I would only tell you something that's going to benefit you because it benefits me naturally. Like I would never steer you in the wrong direction, but I'm such a direct person. I don't like beating around the bush. So I'm all about sincere transparency.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Des, we are super, super proud of you. You're absolutely crushing it. I'll be more excited to continue to watch you and Paradigm, and everything you've shared with us today has been phenomenal. So we'll watch the recording back, guys. We'll get this call out soon. If not, you guys go to her YouTube channel and make sure, again, There's no reason why you shouldn't take everything that she taught you and go and implement it. And we could have 75, 60K producers next month or in 2 months or 3 months as you develop your skills. Like there's nothing that Des is doing that each one of us cannot do. So Des, we love you. I'm very proud of you for your leadership, and I'm excited to see what you continue to accomplish.
Thank you so much, everyone, for hopping on. Thank you, Marissa. I couldn't do it
Welcome,
without
guys.
you, honestly.
Let's get back on the phones, and Des is on Inspire Dials every single day. So for those of you that want to see her in action, it's because you got to show up, right? Show up to Inspire Dials, get your leads, get on the phone, and let's get going, and we'll do this together. So, all right, guys, have a good night. Talk to you soon.